All right. Again, just to repeat, my name is Angela Kappus. I'm the vice president of the VCU Political Science Alumni Society. Um, Amy and Stephanie and everybody, they invited me to speak today about the event we did back in November, which was our election night watch party. Normally, we do this at least every 4 years. We actually started our group with the 2016 presidential election. That was the first event we did. It was really successful, but as you can imagine, it was it was kind of a weird energy going on in there. So we repeated it to, get more, as we got more experience, we repeated it with midterms, we repeated it with congressional elections. Our last in-person event was our Super Tuesday election night watch party that we did in person. And then the most recent one was this November election night watch party. So we did it virtually this year. And we found some things that helped us out a lot in planning this event and trying to make it similar to what we usually do in person. So it was a little different from a lot of the other panel discussions that VCU Alumni has put out, in that we were able to have an open discussion, not necessarily had a set speakers that would be speaking kind of in a panel format. But we had an open discussion for several hours with guests coming in and out, and managed to make it work. And the slide that you hopefully can all see is kind of the tools that we use to make that event happen and make it successful. Just so we were really proud of this, that our attendance, now this is attendance virtually, so people kind of popped in and out, but our attendance was about double what we've been able to get in actual in-person events. So we were pretty proud of that. But if you intend to continue doing virtual events, the main thing, and this is true for in-person events too, is discuss your event with your staff liaison as far ahead of time as possible. It helped us a lot. Now we benefited. This was an event that we usually do, that we do frequently. So Amy actually came to us and said, "Are you willing to do this? Let's help us make it work," because they also wanted to tie it in with other VCU election programming. So we were able to fit into that, get emails, get social media planning, all of that good stuff to try and boost attendance. So the earlier that you can talk to your staff liaison about this, the better. And it is easier if it's a regular event you can do every year. So if you have events like that, don't let the pandemic scare you off. If you haven't, hit that point already, still consider holding the event. Definitely try and confirm if you want to have experts, faculty, VIP specific alumni, make sure you confirm their attendance and really drill down that they are going to be there, just so you can get a good idea of who is going to be attending, especially if you do an event like we did, where we wanted some experts on certain subject matter, so we know what sort of questions to ask, and we can also advertise that they are going to be there. Ahead of time, definitely determine the number of chapter officers or volunteers in the chapter that are going to be helping to manage the event. You need to have enough people to manage disruptions without disrupting the event, and also to make sure you have at least one person letting people into the meeting, and have a dedicated person responsible for watching the chat. The chat is really underutilized with video conferencing, including, professionally, I've noticed that as well. We used it a lot. We used it for attendees to ask questions. We used it to announce when a state was called. Even the ones that were kind of expected, instead of breaking up the conversation that was happening on camera, we could throw into the chat that Connecticut had just been called for Joe Biden. And then when we had a break in conversation, one of us would step in and start naming off the states that had been called while we were discussing with the faculty member. So definitely we had 3 people. You can have more or less depending on how you want to run the event and how many people you're going to have, but definitely make sure it's probably better to have more than less, just to make sure that you have enough to manage the event. Um, Within a week or so of the event, we recommend hold a meeting with all of the managers to go over the roles that you're planning, who's going to be in charge of the chat, who's going to be in charge of letting people in, that sort of thing. Make sure they're all involved and they help make and understand the roadmap for the event. Everybody understands how it's going to go. That way that if things don't go as planned, everybody knows how to bring it back on track, or say if somebody has to leave, the technology doesn't work, they have to go, resolve something with their child, or their power goes out, everybody else can sort of bring the event to a close or to the next step where you want it to be. Also use the meeting to test the technology, which goes into the next step. Test, and test again any technology you plan to use. Your video software, as well as anything else. If you want to use slides, if you want to use, we used a game. So we had a Google form. We went through that and had our officers use it just to make sure that it worked and everybody could, and the officer who was managing it could see the responses, make sure everybody knows how to change volume, how to check the chat, that sort of thing. Make sure during that meeting, when you're testing technology, you also go over with your officers rules that you expect attendees to go by. And then when you start the event, you can present that to them easily. So things like making sure they know that if that you have to stay on topic. If you go outside of the parameters of the event, this is political science, we have people who are really passionate about the results. But if people started attacking individuals, we would remove them from the meeting. And we made that very clear from the beginning so that everybody stayed within their parameters and everybody, there was passion, but not anger. That said, plan for contingencies. It could very easily have changed from passion to anger. We need to be able to make those rules clear so we can deal with that contingency, remove people if we have to, remove people who got the link for some reason and are throwing up weird things. Just be ready for stuff to go wrong. And then you can, if you're flexible, you're ready to go, then you'll be able to handle it easily. If you plan, if you have enough people, if you have an idea of what you'll do if things go wrong, you'll be comfortable, you'll be able to have fun. Your attendees will read off on that energy and they'll be able to have fun too. So we had drinks. We were able to talk about people's projects. We were able to bring in faculty to speak about not just what was going on with the election, but also what the political science department was doing. We were able to bring in other attendees, folks from the Grace Harris Leadership Center, what we were doing as officers, and just kind of make it a conversation. And everybody really enjoyed it. And it came the closest out of any virtual event that I've gone to kind of recreating that genial atmosphere that we had with the in-person events. Not quite there, we didn't have food, couldn't bribe people with wings, but it was pretty close and we were pretty proud of that.
I will say this was just so successful, and it was due to all of the volunteers, especially you, Angela, your hard work and making sure that this went off without a hitch. Obviously, there was much planning involved and very detail oriented. The experts that you all selected, with the relationships that you had with the faculty and alumni, I mean, it was just so well done. So I'm very happy that we can share this information. Thank you so much for putting it into such a concise, digestible way.